Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome to ATD Demo Day. It's our fifth and final demo of the day with Madcap software, AI and learning and development beyond the button. Chris Coker of Madcap Software is here to guide us through our last demo. Megan from the Madcap team is also here, and she's going to be helping to answer some questions in the chat. So give a welcome to Chris and Megan in our chat. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Chris to lead the way for us.
Beautiful. So let me go ahead and share my screen for everybody. Excellent. And then I'm going to actually take my other screen and make it really big one more time. All right. Now, welcome to today's session. And today I am titling my session AI and Learning and Development Beyond the Button. So I'm actually going to start with something a little crazy, which my team knows me for doing. I spent about 18 years as a professional educator before I joined the Madcap family. So I've taught everything from seriously kindergarten through high school. In fact, the last 6 years of my education career, I was an instructional coach working with the implementation of tech and working with teachers across all grade bands. So it's needless to say, learning is in my blood. And the last 2 years have been really exciting, transitioning from learning in a professional standpoint as a professional educator into the business world and seeing where things come together and just all the exciting adventure that entails. Now, this exciting thing I want to start with, I titled my session Beyond the Button because honestly, AI often gets distilled and it means so many different things to different people. So I'm throwing a challenge out there to all of you. And I know I've got like 160 plus people in this room, so please don't let me down. I want you to take one moment and in the chat, I want you to summarize in just 2 to 3 words. Don't overthink this. What AI means to you. In other words, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you in your job, in your role, in your life when you start thinking about AI? So go ahead and put those in the chat. Beautiful. Time saver. Take things to the next level. Additional support. A tool to make my job efficient. Computer ruled. I like that. Collaboration. Work faster and smarter. Additional team members. Superpowers. I love this. The reason I love this, hold on, there's one that's in all bold. Faster output. Amen. I love that one, Patrick. It means so many things to different people because AI takes so many different forms. Now, one of the things I love about this too is it shows the vast possibilities with AI. Now, today we're going to dig in and we're going to do a little bit of thinking together. I'm not just going to come in here and pound you with a whole bunch of demonstration and say, yay, look at how cool we are. Yes, I'm going to show you some neat stuff behind the scenes and how we're doing things at Madcap to help speak to this AI environment we now live in. But I really want to talk AI in general and what that means to those of us who've been living and breathing, learning and development for years. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in with a little bit of a personal story. Back almost 10 years ago, when I was working in the school system, I got to start seeing the first implementations of digital transformation in learning. Now, this is a horrible graphic, but I had to pull it offline because it's old. It's like 10 years old. I got to be part of something through the University of Central Florida called the Teach Live Lab. What this was, it wasn't quite AI, but you could see where AI was coming. What they did is they created a virtual experience for teachers where teachers could go in and actually practice talking to students and they talk back. They could actually practice their teaching skills. They could practice dealing with behaviors. Or this example, the image is with students. They could flip it and they could put an administrator in front of you and you could have a challenging discussion with an administrator. So it was allow you to start to see what that virtual experience is, what going back and forth with a digital experience can do. And the reason I wanted to mention this is the impact were huge. And what I saw happen with these teachers is they let their guard down. They felt like a lot of what you just posted above in the chat about they had someone on their side. They had a way to practice. They had a way to hone their skills. They had a team to work with. They were able to more efficiently make progress. So this was like 10 years ago, and it was before AI. They had just started implementing some of the AI type features into this program. But where are we today? Well, it's unquestioned that AI systems are revolutionizing the workplace. And that doesn't matter if you're talking business, if you're talking banking, if you're talking manufacturing, if you're talking learning and development in any one of those verticals. And what we're seeing is that it's changing not just our content, it's changing how we do our job for all the reasons you mentioned. Suddenly we're more efficient. Suddenly we have an easier way to brainstorm. I can get more jobs done. I can analyze content better. I can develop things faster. I can get additional ideas without necessarily having to schedule that meeting with people spread across the globe because I have resources at my disposal that work differently. Now, the biggest thing, and you're going to hear me say this a lot, is what we're starting to see. And when you start looking at the resources and you start looking at the research, is that AI truly is designed and it's being implemented to augment human capabilities. It's automating those repetitive tasks. It's freeing us from having to focus on some of the remedial things and getting to be more creative, getting to be more problem solving, and getting to build stronger relationships amongst the people we work with. So it's definitely augmenting what we do. But there's something very, very true, both for the businesses in which AI is being used and for learning and development within those businesses, that it requires a successful strategy. Defining clear business objectives, investing in data and talent that understand AI, that are willing to put themselves into it and try it and learn and be willing to adapt, prioritizing ethical and responsible uses of AI. That's a huge thing we're going to talk about today, and even addressing potential risks. Now, I want to kind of take that more theoretical view and let's turn it into 5 specific statistics. Is AI a priority in business? Well, number one, 79% of C-suite people agree on the necessity of AI for staying competitive. So you're talking 4 out of 5 executives out there are saying, yeah, we have to do this. Number two, there's unquestionably a sense of urgency behind AI. It's estimated by the Gartner report that in 2030, 75% of operational decisions will be made within an AI-enabled application or process. It's a fancy way of saying AI is going to influence about 75% of our operation and the decisions we make as part of that operation. That's an enormous impact. I can't think of the last time I saw a technology come into place other than the advent of the computer itself that had this broad of an impact and the possibility for change in how we do what we do. Number three, we can't talk AI and not talk about risk, because it's been shown that almost 80% of AI projects don't actually make it. And we're going to talk about why once we get there, but there's some risk behind it. Yes, you need to jump in and we need to try things, but it's not always going to be a success. And the challenge of this, number four, companies dedicate about 80% of their AI project time to gathering, organizing, and labeling data. Now, why is that? Well, at the end of the day, data really is the lifeblood, the blood, the stream, the food, the rocket fuel, whatever you want to call it, of AI. AI is built on it in the sense that you have to train it. It's controlled by it. You have to train it up. You have to fine tune it. And it's what it's producing. So it's coming in as data and it's going out as data. And we're going to talk about that data and kind of define it a little deeper here shortly. But it's all about the data. Now, from an L&D perspective, what does that specifically mean to us? Well, we need to stop thinking necessarily as content as in projects and e-learning, because at the end of the day, our content is data, and it's really good data. So honestly, number four of that challenge bodes very well for any of us in L&D. Now, number five, another stat here is 40% of companies have not taken action on Gen AI yet. That feels huge, especially when you compare it to number one, where 80% of C-suite are saying we need to do this. That means there's an enormous amount of apprehension, and it means there's a lot of hesitancy. However, that also means there's an open door for us in L&D. So let's dig into this a little bit more. But to do that, I'm actually going to step you back in time. Why? I'm going to answer this question right up front. Why is there so much rapidity? Why is it so fast that we feel these changes are hitting us with AI? Well, early AI development, if you step back to its infancy, now mind you, we're only talking a number of years here. We're not talking 50, 60 here, but early AI development, and this is the stuff we've all seen before, computer vision, natural language processing, like what you get with Google Translate, or you can say something in it, speech recognition, robotics. We've been playing around with robots as humans for years. Expert systems, in other words, they can help us analyze or really make the most of limited knowledge. all of these things were considered different domains. And I called this a fragmented landscape. What that means essentially is, like traditional computer and digital solutions, if I made developments in computer vision, that was great, but it did nothing really to help my natural language processing researchers. And when they made a natural language processing advancement, it didn't really necessarily help my expert systems, or vice versa. And I just picked four. The domains are huge. We could probably, if we put our heads together, list 50 to 100 different domains in which all these AI advancements were taking place. But like traditional computing stuff, most of them sat within their own domains. But that changed with the emergence of large language models. This happened around 2017 with the transformer architecture. Google introduced attention mechanisms, revolutionizing language processing capabilities. In other words, this was the time when AI switched from, hey, I'm going to analyze an image and try to figure out what's in it, machine learning-esque, to I can actually understand and communicate with language. Fast forward a little bit, 2020, ChatGPT was released, and we know the explosion that caused, especially when it hit public. And then let's go a little bit further, closer to modern times. In 2022, LLMs became multimodal, meaning it wasn't just language they were producing. They're now creating and generating images and audio and text together. And now, even past that, we're generating videos. It's crazy how much AI can produce at quality. Now, is it perfect? No, but it's advancing unbelievably fast. Why? And why is that? And this is something that I don't think gets stated enough. Because everything now is language. I'm honing in, if you go back a slide, large language model. That language is the key to this. To a computer, at the end of the day, music is a type of language. Visual content, an image, when you break it down to pixels, is a type of language. Structured data, lists and tables and XML, is a kind of data. It's a kind of language. Anything you can think of is a type of language. I saw a really interesting video the other day on AI, and it was talking about how they merged cellular radiation coming off of our cell phones, those electromagnetic waves, with a visual video feed of a room, and the AI was able to merge them and start making predictions on people's body positions even after they remove the imagery, just by our cell phones in the room. Everything has become language in terms of LLMs. So why does that change the game? Because it means now researchers aren't working on a visual representation or a structured data representation. They're simply working on languages. So when one domain makes an advancement, they all do. This is why things are growing so rapidly. And they've actually referred to this within research as the double exponential or double exponential growth. And it comes from multiple things. One, we're all working and contributing now to the rise of LLMs and these large language models. But in the past 18 months, we've already doubled our computing power. That means we can even do this faster. And our LLMs are growing tenfold annually, which means if you start multiplying this out, that's 100 times combined effect. So you take the technological advancements and merge that with the fact that when one basically vertical of research makes an advancement, we all do. That's why changes in the AI world aren't just happening on a monthly or annual basis. That's why we're literally seeing changes daily. It is mind-boggling how fast this is happening. And it's honestly happening faster than any previous technological advancement in history. That's why it's so important for us to keep our eyes open, especially in learning and development. Now, speaking of learning and development, let's shift our focus slightly. What actually is AI's impact on learning and development? I did a whole bunch of research and I kind of narrowed it down to some of the ones that really popped out. And one of the biggest ones for me was personalized learning experiences. Okay, so what does AI do to this? Well, you kind of hit on a lot of those inside the chat earlier, but it means I'm not just giving somebody a course because of, their job or their onboarding. It means that the AI can help us analyze that person's skill set, their background, their capabilities, and it can combine that information with their preferences, maybe knowledge gaps. And now it can give us a deeper understanding of what that person actually needs. And it helps us customize the content. It can even, in the flow, tailor materials to each person's need, their pace, their professional goals, what the needs of the organization are. And AI is not just static. It's involving adaptive platforms, gamification, interactive things like simulations inside of the content it's working with, meaning engagement's going up. And when engagement goes up, guess what? We have a neat way of now tracking that at a much deeper level, real-time feedback and analytics. So we know how the learning is performing and we know the impact that those things are having on our learners. So it's huge for both L&D departments and the impact they're having on the learners themselves. Let's go up one more. And this is where a lot of your comments came in. What about creation? Absolutely, this is changing the way we can create content. Creation gets faster because we can generate quality training materials in minutes instead of weeks. I can ask it to help me fix my language, fix my grammar, write this paragraph for me, take these bullet points and make a slide deck. It's also helping us do much more than just build. In fact, that's one of my challenges for you is I want you to really start thinking about AI beyond just generating. It helps us update and maintain our content in the long run, because that's always been a hurdle for L&D. We can build stuff, that's our favorite part, but having to upkeep it year after year and making sure I catch every single part or piece we've put out into the organization, that's a major hurdle. It helps us validate our content. Is it correct? Are we dealing with hallucinations? Are we compliant? Is it pedagogically sound? It can help us with that. And it's revolutionizing translation. What used to have to be translated by hand, now most major companies are offering machine translation right alongside their human translations. So the impact of this is absolutely massive. But I would be horribly remiss if I only stayed on the positive. Because just like anything, this is a double-edged sword. Because I'm going to be very trite and kind of catchy here, but with great power comes great responsibility. And if you picked up on that quote, bravo, 5 points. But there's also many, many, many challenges that face AI in an L&D world. So one, intellectual property. And this is incredibly valid. What happens if someone goes beyond the policies of their company, or the company doesn't have policies, and they start asking ChatGPT or maybe Llama, or take your pick, Gemini, to help them create content? But to create that content, they had to feed it some information, and that information contained proprietary info, safety concerns. Maybe it can private content that needs to stay behind the scenes at a company, not ready for release. Maybe one of those just got trained on that content and accidentally releasing it. Huge possibilities here. What about reliability and hallucinations? One of the reports that I read said up to 27% of AI-generated responses can be inaccurate. What are hallucinations? That's a great question. Hallucinations are when when AI, you ask a chatbot, hey, write this for me, or create this for me, or you simply ask it a question, teach me how to do X, Y, Z. And it goes out and it does find some resources, but it's only as good as its training. It's also told, we want you to be creative. So what happens is it builds in some creativity. There's been instances where lawyers have asked for a whole bunch of research and AI made up cases that didn't exist to support the use case that the author asked about. There's been instances where people ask it to teach them something and it teaches them incorrectly. And unfortunately, what they have found is because of the nature of AI, it tends to be referred to as a black box, meaning we can't really see inside of it all too well to know exactly how it's making the decisions it is, but it's essentially guessing what word comes next. So in other words, when AI is functioning, it breaks your content into semantic meaning. And yes, exactly. Luba said it. Yes, pretending it knows the answer. That is the perfect way to say it. But essentially, it breaks your content into semantic chunks. And based on its training, it's learned to predict what chunk follows the next. That's how it generates the responses. And it can very easily end up giving you incorrect info. Now, bias and discrimination, where does that come from? Well, every model out there, big or small, are trained on vast sets of data. Much of that information has come from the internet or libraries or purchased repositories of content. And if there's biases or discrimination in the training content, now mind you, we're not talking 5, 10, 50 books. We're talking about hundreds, if not millions, of pages of data and information. virtually impossible to some extent for humans to go through and call to make sure there are no biases in it. But if there's biases that exist, that AI was trained on biased information, and therefore that bias can start coming through, and research has shown sometimes even augment that bias in their results. We've seen massive issues with discrimination in how different images have been identified. When it's doing image recognition and it says certain things are one way, but these others aren't good enough, and it gets very dangerous. So all of these things have to boil down to that last line, quality control. Now, the big question in the room, and I'm sure coming from an L&D world, is this one. It's the very first question I asked myself when I started preparing for this demo, or this webinar. Is the role of learning and development teams still relevant and important in a business environment saturated with AI? Because we've all heard this horror story or the idea of our whole department funneling down to just being 2 people remaining because AI is just going to generate everything. I'm going to argue that AI does not eliminate the need for learning and development. It actually augments it. That is my key takeaway from all the research I've done. Basically, AI should be viewed first as a tool that augments and not replaces. Here's why, and I titled this slide, "The Human Expertise on Purpose." There's a multitude of concerns and considerations that come out when you start using AI, and I've hit on a few of these. Ethical concerns. Are we allowed to use this content? Can I use a LLM or an AI model that was trained on content that was technically copyrighted? Because if that's the case, what if it generates something that's very similar to the source and now I'm liable for that copyright infringement? What about biases? We talked about how on earth are we going to make sure we don't accidentally put biases in content we're generating through artificial intelligence? What about accuracy and appropriateness of content? We've already said that there's a high rate of fallacy or hallucinations or made up content inside of AI. How do I make sure that this is accurate? What about even beyond that? AI is great at building stuff and creating things and analyzing, and I think it can be revolutionary, but it doesn't think strategically. It also doesn't have a native contextual understanding beyond just the little bits and pieces we feed it. And even beyond that, ethical judgment. Should we say these things? Not just because we can. So all of these things justify heartily why L&D must remain relevant. So then my big question for you guys is, how do you become strategic? How do you become a part of this solution instead of sitting back and being afraid of it? Well, my sentence at the top, L&D is still enormously important, but the nature of their role and the required skill sets will evolve significantly. Your job may not necessarily look like it always will, but it's going to be more important than ever. How do we make sure we stay relevant as an L&D? Number one, develop skills in AI. The fact that you're here today speaks volumes. Learn as absolutely much as you can. Number two, learn to effectively integrate various technologies. This means I came from a teaching background myself. I get it. You love building your learning. You know all the strategies. You know best practices. But I'm going to challenge you. Stretch yourself. Start becoming a techie as well as an L&D nerd. I embrace it thoroughly, and it's only opened doors for me because the more we can see ourselves on a larger playing field and we can realize that our content, what we're producing, is yet more information, and how can our systems integrate with other systems and feed them, the better. That's why it's so important to start integrating across technologies. Number three, collaborate more with IT and legal. And honestly, they are asking all these same questions that we've been asking. The more you can start bringing them into the conversation, the better, because they're going to know you're taking it seriously and you're not just looking for a button to make a list or make a tabs interaction. You're thinking more broadly about the impact and the implications and the possibilities of AI. Number four is fun. Experiment. Experiment with AI like crazy. Try it out. Within reason, don't break policies, but do it well. You're never going to learn unless you get your hands wet. Number five, focus on higher value activities. And this is that beyond content generation, beyond the button. Okay. And I'm going to show you some possibilities from a larger perspective here in just a moment. But there's 2 more points here. Understand specific needs of the business. This one's huge. I will tell you, I've talked to many, many L&D teams that don't feel like they're much more than an order taker. They wait for some other group to come in and say, we need a training on this. So they build it up, they spin it out, and out the door it goes until the next order comes in. Be intentional. Understand the specific needs of the business. Have those meetings so you can be ahead of it and you can help determine solutions for those needs, leveraging AI, leveraging your skills as an L&D expert instead of waiting for someone to tell you what to do. Now, the other thing I saw in my research is you're going to start seeing new roles pop up in L&D. I listed out the 7 that really popped out at me. Learning strategists, content curators, learning experience designers, learning analysts, all AI, AI ethics compliance officers. My last 2, though, were my favorite. Prompt engineering for L&D content. Being able to control L&D, or excuse me, being able to control AI, what it's producing and how it's producing it, part of that is prompt engineering, knowing how to interact with AI effectively. And the last one is probably one of my favorites. And I literally just heard it. I picked it up off a LinkedIn post just like 2 days ago. Content engineer. And I loved this because it still focuses on content because I'm sorry, in L&D, I love my content. I love my stuff. I get to build. But I'm not just writing it anymore. I'm engineering it because it takes a broader mindset. It's that learning and development and the technical coming together. So my last tip, work with your business to develop a governance framework. If I could say that 100 times, I would. If you don't already have one in your business, in your organization, have a governance framework for AI. What is that? It's a set of definitions for what you want AI to look like in your business and in your learning and development team. And not only how are you going to use it, but how are you going to govern it? How are you going to control it? What pieces are you going to put in place? What engines are you going to use? What kind of safeguards are you going to put in place? This is how you make yourself relevant, is you become part of that team that creates this governance framework. If it doesn't exist, volunteer to do it. Now, I want to switch gears. I know I've only got like 3 minutes left, but I would be totally remiss if I didn't bring this back and say, so what exactly is Madcap talking about all this AI stuff? Because they're not really an AI solution. Well, we're not. We are what we like to refer to as an AI enablement system. In fact, I'm going to take you to one of the very last slides. Right now, Madcap Software offers pretty much the only platform dedicated to full enterprise AI content readiness. And I'm going to come back to what that readiness means here in just a second. Creating and managing both technical documentation and learning assets, giving you confidence that mission-critical knowledge is always accurate and up to date. AI readiness doesn't mean we're going to come in with the next fantastic AI tool. It means we're going to help you through our tools play in that field. We're going to enable you. We're going to enable L&D, and we're going to enable your content. And we're doing that in 3 core ways. Number 1, content assistance up on the top right. That's exactly what a lot of you posted about. Hey, make this faster, make this better, design this for me, check my language. I'm an author. I need assistance. That one's easy. We're building those into all of our products across the stream. But, and this is where the playing field starts to expand, we're also working in content intelligence. This is where we're taking AI and letting it do the work of thousands of employees, and it does it in minutes. It's analyzing our database and understanding it semantically. So I can now ask questions and have it answer them using your proprietary information. We have a system that it's a repository of content. It's called Madcap Syndicate. We're not just focusing this content intelligence internally. This is a repository where you can put all your learning content, and it's designed to house it and deliver it and distribute it amongst all the different places you need it to go. It can push into LMSs, it can push into knowledge portals, it can be delivered via links, but you get one place to control it. Wouldn't it be amazing if I really understood that, but I could open up that semantic understanding of all the content in there, whether it's PDFs or documents or e-learning or HTML, and then open that to other places? What if I was able to connect my own LLM, design my own chatbot, but now control it via my learning content? That's what we're doing. And finally, that pushes into content access. We don't see ourselves as a closed system. We're not looking inward for AI. We're doing AI on your terms because we know that every company is going to have different policies. It's going to have a different set of needs. It's going to have different restrictions on AI. We're letting you choose your engines and your AI models to plug into our system so your content becomes the fuel. It becomes the engine itself. It becomes the way you actually control it. It's the only way we're finding that L&D is able to have this massive impact because now your content becomes the lifeblood of those chatbots. Those chatbots, we're using a system. I wanted to get into this, but for sake of time, I'm going to have to pass on it today, called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. It's been shown through research as one of the few ways that if I have this AI chatbot, I can actually control what it does to help prevent hallucinations and inaccurate information. Because I'm going to throw this example to you. If I work in healthcare versus maybe the food industry, to AI, both of these industries are going to use the word dressing, but AI doesn't understand the contextual implications of that. Despite the fact that in healthcare and in food service, dressing means something very different. So your proprietary content is what helps you define exactly what that is. And that is our goal between assistance, intelligence, and access, is enabling you to have a voice at the table and to be more relevant today and tomorrow than you were yesterday. That is why Madcap wants to play in the AI space. Thank you, guys. Megan, I've had the chat open. I haven't seen any questions come in, but I think I am right at time. Thank you all for coming in today. I really appreciate your attention. This is a fun presentation. I plan on doing multiple more of these with different flavors in the future. And the last slide I want to share with you guys is this one. We are hosting Mad World coming up in September. If you have any interest, just do a quick Google, check us out on our website. We're going to be digging into all this kind of stuff. And if there's any questions in the chat, we'll see if we can follow up. I know they're going to give us basically a listing of everything that was stated. So if I didn't get to your question directly on, I apologize, but we'll do our best to follow up with you guys after.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris. This was awesome. Huge thank you to Madcap again. And thank you to all of our attendees. We still have a huge group here. We're so thankful for you for checking us out today. Just a reminder that you will receive a recording to the link for all of the whole demo day, all 5 demos, and you'll get links for the individual recordings if you just want to jump to the one that you missed. And I wanted to pop in a couple of things into the chat for you all. Make sure to save the date for upcoming demo days. We have one coming up in April if you're looking for coaching solutions. And if you just want to keep up to date and sign up for future webinars, demos, demo days, make sure you check out our webinar library and our calendar to check all of that out. Give us some feedback if there's something that you're looking for and you haven't seen a demo day for it yet, then maybe we can get it onto the calendar. We appreciate you. Have a great, great afternoon, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.